Fearless.
Chase.
Bold.
Following.
Courageous.
Search. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Marshall.
And this is
Undaunted
Pursuit. All right, and we're back. Welcome, everybody, to Undaunted Pursuit Podcast. We're glad to have you all here.
Glad to have y'all back on this beautiful day. Man, I tell you what.
Yes, sir.
So when you were sending me these Zencastr invites, Aaron, I kept hitting refresh and refresh and refresh on my inbox.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, you know what? I wonder if they're going into my spam box. And sure enough, they were. They were going right into my spam box. So, and I wonder if in the past when I have had trouble receiving them, if they're actually just going into my spam box. I never thought to think there because most of the time they come to my inbox. So I marked them as not spam and they went to my inbox because when they're in spam, I can't click on the link, but when they're in the inbox, I can. So anyway, that was part of the issue.
Golly. Well, that's all right. At least we're on here now. And so, it gave me time to look at, well, what it did is it gave me time to second guess whether or not we finished chapter 6 or not. Because now today we're going into chapter 7, and I hadn't really looked at the end of chapter 6 until now. I don't know. I can't remember if we finished it. We've had so many. Last week's episode was amazing. I loved it.
Oh,
with Michael
awesome.
Lacey. And
it was fantastic.
We need to have him. Yeah, we need to have him on more often, don't we?
Oh, I 100% agree. He was fun to talk to. He was just natural flowing. It was great. I mean, he was just a fun guy to talk to, and not only that, he fulfilled Aaron's dreams by singing on podcast. Now, we won't say what he's saying because y'all have to hear that, but Aaron's dreams are fulfilled.
Well, they would have already heard it by now.
Well, that's true. I forgot about that.
So we're because we do we are ahead of things, so we have to talk like it had already recorded.
Past tense.
Anyway, yeah, past tense. There you go. Oh man, so there's one thing that I wanted to bring up, and Marshall, did you know that Ashley and I have started our training for MMA?
No kidding.
Yeah. It starts with it at night. The kids are helping us train at night because we got the crap beat out of us last night by two of our youngest kids in the bed with us. Got plenty of kicks to the stomach and elbows to the head. So, yeah, I think we have officially started our MMA training.
Well, you gotta love that. That's I'm assuming the best way to learn that one-on-one hand defense is with your kids.
Boy, they are wild. We can't get them to stop coming in. I'll carry them back, and then a couple hours later, here they are again to beat us up even more.
My goodness, you're just gonna have to put a lock on the door and just kick them out for good.
I know it. Hold on just a second here. Oh man, that's some good stuff. Okay, I'm about to make all those yuppies extremely happy right now. Because what I'm drinking tonight is, I'm going to knock their socks off. I'm drinking a Lotus plant-based energy drink, that we just got it in the mail today. And so if any of you guys out there either work for Lotus or want to send us even more Lotus energy drinks and stuff like that, it's really good. Have you ever had Lotus Energy?
I have never even heard of Lotus Energy. What does it taste like?
um, it's good. Yeah, but it's a plant-based energy. So, um, yeah, it's really good. So I guess it's better than whatever energy drink that you'd get at the store. But yeah, I told you, all those hippies are applauding right now that I'm drinking a plant-based energy drink.
Well, I can add to that, making them happy by saying that my wife is vegan. Now she does, um, she eats meat occasionally, but for the most part, she just does vegan type
Mhm.
meals. And most of our dinners are a vegan style meal. Now, we still have meat. Like I said, from time to time, I eat meat way more than she does. Speaking of meat, man, yesterday at work, we had this delicious meal for lunch. It was our, uh, maybe it's our first quarter, second, I think it's our first quarter uh, safety lunch. And oh man, it was so good. We had
Mhm.
baked potatoes, we had a salad. I mean, a steak, and this wasn't no little steak. I mean, this thing was huge and it was thick. I only ate half of it, and we had
This isn't the
peach
first
cobbler,
time that
apple
this
cobbler.
happens like every year.
Well, yeah, we do. Well, there's 4 quarters in a year, so we do this 4 times a year, and this is separate from
Ugh.
my own lunches that I have with the part of the company that I work for. So, dude, they feed us
Mhm.
well. They're fattening me up, but it was really really good food, and I can never eat it all because it's so much food. So I eat half of it, bring the rest home, and I'm actually
Mhm.
supposed to bring some to my dog, which actually is in here with me today. She's just laying on the ground snoozing.
Nice.
But yeah,
So there's one thing that I learned from the past podcast. You know, I did that podcast with Jarrett with Pursuit of Manliness podcast, and it
yeah.
was awesome because it was in the morning, and I was able to sit here. I like having coffee. Yeah, I enjoyed being able to have a coffee while on the podcast. And that being said, and you know, I had to go with this Lotus energy drink because hey, you know, we we need more coffee on this podcast. Don't you agree, Marshall?
When you mention coffee, all I can think of is we have got to find ourselves a sponsor that makes our coffee that will send us some so we can enjoy some delicious, scrumptious, fresh roasted, freshly ground coffee on this podcast. So if there's anybody out there that wants to send us some of your best coffee, and we will talk up a storm, because Aaron and I love coffee. I drink coffee every day, 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day probably, and
I,
on the weekends, I mean all the
I
time.
drink a pot.
Oh, a pot. Wow. There you go.
I drink a pot of coffee every day. And if I had more of it, I would drink more than just a pot a day. But here's the thing. Here's what I want everybody listening, because I it's funny that you say that, Marshall, about a sponsor. And we need to secure, we are seriously lacking uh a sustainable supply of coffee. And not only that, Marshall, I've been using this beard oil from Young Living when we were doing that whole, we still do like doing essential oils and all that, but I didn't use I just recently started using the beard oil again, and I'm about out. So here's what I'm going to do. If you guys run a company, a beard oil company, because we're just a couple of bearded brothers, right, Marshall?
Oh yeah, for sure. I love me some good beard oil.
Yeah, we need some beard products. We need some coffee, and hey, I can't believe that I'm getting ready to do this, Marshall, because but people need to know where to send them. So I'm just going to put it right now, right out on the air. PO Box 92, Grangeville, Idaho 83530. Send that stuff there. If we receive a package in the mail with either coffee, beard oil, the combination, whatever, you guys will be a sponsor, at least depending on how much you send, of course. At least for a couple of episodes while we're drinking it. That's a pretty good deal, isn't it, Marshall?
I think that's a great deal. I mean, you know, coffee, beard oil. I mean, you can't come up with a better combination for a man than a good cup of warm coffee and some good smelling beard oil that I can caress all up in my beard and get that beard nice and smooth and silky. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I put beard oil in my beard every single morning, and it smells so good. And I've been through so many different types of beard oils. I just got a new one. It's called Montana something. I got it from Natural Grocers, and it is a good smelling vanilla something. Man, it's good stuff. My wife liked it at first. Now she's kind of like, meh. But hey, I love it. This stuff smells delicious.
So yeah, we'll talk about that towards the end of the podcast. But I'll tell you the address again at the end of the podcast in case you missed it. Another thing that I'm looking to switch up, Marshall, is the fact that I kind of want to go back to telling people where to go and stuff at the end of the podcast. So I'd kind of like to get away from that pre-recorded junk and just get back into that, because there's a lot of things that are kind of changing and everything, and I don't feel like recording another one of those things. So we're going to get back into just talking about that at the end of the episode.
I like it.
But definitely, yeah, I mean, I think I could safely say, Marshall, that if we got sent goodies, eventually, that we could review them right here on the podcast. I'll rub some of that beard oil on mine right here on the podcast. I'll let you know what it's like.
Oh yeah, I mean most of it, and then we'll take pictures and we'll put it on all of our social media platforms. And I may even take a little video and throw it up on the old Facebook or Instagram or whatever you want to put it on. And hey, there you go. You got some quality advertising. Doesn't get any better than that. Hey, there ain't nothing like Aaron putting a little bit of beard oil in his beard in a video. Come on now.
That's right. And, I've noticed, though, Marshall, that there are some, there's beard growth oil. Now, that would be pretty cool, too. There's just oil for moisturizing the skin up underneath. But then there's beard growth oil that I've seen ads for here lately.
Yeah, there's even pills you can take to help with your beard. That's full of, I guess, vitamins and stuff. But yeah, there's all sorts of
I don't want to do that.
Butters. No, I want to stay away from the pills unless it's all natural, like vitamins and minerals of some sort. But I mean, there's beard butters and beard oils and beard straighteners and beard combs and there's beard everything out there. And we want it on this podcast now.
That's right. We seriously need a sponsor. So there you go, guys. We'll give you that address again at the end of the podcast. But what's next here, Marshall? I know last week we've missed. We're recording this just after Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Which, of course, now when this airs, it'll be 2 weeks past Valentine's Day. But did you do anything special?
We didn't go too extravagant this year, which I guess, we really never do. But we stayed home. My wife made some shrimp Alfredo, which we just finished up today. So it lasted about 3 days. And it was delicious, as usual. And she made me like homemade fortune cookies and made her own little fortunes. And then she made these homemade
nice
pastries, like Pop-Tarts, essentially. And dude, they were so good. She got up with me at 5:30 in the morning last week, and she gave them to me. And I got her some bath bombs, and wrote her a nice long note and everything. So it was really nice. We really enjoyed it. Had a good day, and just stayed home and just kind of relaxed at the house. But we didn't go out and go do a bunch of stuff. What'd y'all do?
Nice. Not a whole lot of much, but we don't necessarily celebrate it. Ashley is not a huge fan of Valentine's Day, but of course, every woman likes flowers, and so I try and get her flowers regularly on Valentine's Day, just because it is cliche, and I thought it's funny because she doesn't necessarily, because it is cliche, she doesn't like it. But then again, the funny part, it's funny because she really does like flowers too. So she knows I love her. I don't need a special holiday to let her know that I love her. I love her year round, which is the little note this year on the little bit of flowers that I got for her. It says, I put, I love you year round on it.
You know, Valentine's Day isn't a huge thing to me. I think it's more of a bigger deal to my wife. I like it, but if I didn't do anything for it, I really wouldn't care. For me, to me, it's like you said, Valentine's Day. We should be being that loving, gift giving throughout the year. It shouldn't just be on Valentine's Day. We should be getting flowers and stuff. And I do periodically. I'll go and get flowers for my wife occasionally, not all the time, but every now and again I'll pop in with some random flowers and give them to her. But yeah, that's kind of my take on Valentine's Day.
Yeah. And she, though, Ashley, okay, we'll take a quick break real quick. Be right back. Okay, we're back. All right.
Back.
So, okay, Marshall. So what I was saying earlier, was now Ashley, she likes to do chocolate covered strawberries on Valentine's Day. This year, the kids didn't want that, so we had strawberry shortcake, which, let me tell you, was amazing because it was, she got this, I don't know, chocolate mocha or mocha something or another, whipped cream that goes on the top, and then she shaved some white chocolate over the top of the whole thing. Oh my gosh, was it delicious!
Sounds good.
Sounds delicious.
Really good. Man, I tell you, Aaron, I don't think you and I are ever going to be thin boys. Our wives cook too well.
That's right. But going back to the flowers now, here, take this. You still do a little bit of driving around while you work. So I do a lot of driving with my job, my full-time job. And I like to pick flowers in the spring, just kind of periodically out of the blue. I'll see some that look cool on the side of the road. It's not uncommon to see me pull off on the side of the road, run up a hill, pick a bunch of flowers, and then have like a little bouquet when I come home in the springtime. So there you go.
Oh yeah,
it's always something, and you don't have to buy them because I'm cheap.
Yeah, they're free. Exactly. My wife and I, we did. It's been a couple years, but there was a bunch of blue bonnets and Indian paintbrushes. Which blue bonnets are the Texas state flower, and you can't pick them; it's illegal. Which we didn't pick any. But we stopped on the side of the road, and I think it's a Texas tradition to stop on the side of the road when you see blue bonnets, stop and take pictures. So we did that one year and took a bunch of pictures of them and stuff. But I kind of do the same thing sometimes. I'll sit there and pick up flowers occasionally and bring them home during the spring.
Awesome. All right. So we're far enough into this, Marshall. We need to get into this topic for tonight. We're in Luke chapter 7. So let's hit the ground running. What do you say?
Let's go for it.
So I want to kind of put this out here. It's funny how God works and how, I kind of been trying to get into this men's study on Wednesday nights, and we're going through James, and what is at least the first part of James is talking about faith. And what are we going to look at here in chapter 7 is we're looking at just almost the whole chapter. Actually, I think it's safe to say, Marshall, that the whole chapter is about faith, about having faith. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. All about faith.
So hold on a second. Let me go back here and take a look here.
Yeah, you guys are going to hear story, situation after situation of a lot of good faith stories and encounters. A lot of good Jesus encounters.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so Let's see here. Um, I don't know. I was looking in James to kind of kick us off into Luke chapter 7. But I just didn't. I didn't prepare that well, of course, for to supporting text on this. But um, I had a buddy of mine send me a text today that's in the men's group with me, and he says, "Topic of today is faith. Have a good day, brother." I was like, "Yeah, it is. We're getting ready to talk about faith." And he was researching faith too. I don't know why it always surprises me that how uh, God's timing is
Yeah.
perfect, and how it is obviously meant to be. You know.
Oh yeah.
So this first part of chapter 7, Marshall, we're going to see this Roman centurion. He's obviously had this slave of his in his household for a really long time, long enough so that he cares enough about this slave that um, he gets sick. And so what does he do? He's we've been watching Jesus this whole time uh, doing miracles and traveling around. So of course the word has been spreading about that Jesus can. And okay, so we're looking at a Gentile, a Roman. So
Hmm.
he in the Jewish eyes, he's an oppressor. But
Yeah.
we're gonna see this guy's faith in the fact that he sends these Jewish elders to Jesus. We'll start there. He sends these Jewish elders to Jesus to ask him to come save the life of his slave. Um, and so they meet up with Jesus, and they say he is worthy. So he is obviously highly regarded amongst everybody been in contact with, and he's this slave has built our synagogue. Are they talking about? Okay, so I'm kind of looking at verse 4. I'm kind of looking at verse 4 when they reached Jesus. So that's like, let's back up to 3. When the centurion heard about Jesus, he sent some Jewish elders to him, asking him to come and save the life of his slave. So I don't know when we get to verse 4, they must be talking about the Jewish elders. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, because it said when they came to Jesus, talking about the Jewish elders when they came to him. That's yeah. So yeah, they're referring to them.
Right. Okay. So, all right. So let's take another break real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll get into that. Okay. Hold on just a second.
All right.
Okay. All right. So, we're back. So we're talking about the Jewish elders. They reach Jesus, and they're saying they're pleading for Jesus to come. He is worthy for you to do this for him. And then it's because he loves our nation and he built us our synagogue at his own expense. Now, I guess what I'm having trouble determining is whether or not they're still talking about the slave, or that they're talking about this Roman centurion did he build the synagogue, or did this slave?
Let's see. This man deserves to have you do this because he loves our nation and has built our synagogue. So Jesus. So originally, it was the centurion talking about his servant, it was the centurion's servant whom his master valued highly. So his master valued the centurion's servant highly, and so it was the servant that was sick. Let's see. I'm just kind of browsing through this,
I
just
got it.
kind of understanding. I want to say he's talking about that servant, but
I don't know, because in the little subnotes in the down here it says the Roman government regarded synagogues as valuable because of their moral emphasis helped maintain order.
so maybe they were talking about the master then, like being the Roman. I'm assuming.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess that's, I guess we're just getting a little too deep in it, but the idea that we're getting here is like, so now Jesus starts going with them, and you know, he sends friends to Jesus, says, "Do not trouble yourself any further." He comes to the realization that we're talking now about the centurion, that he is not worthy. Which what can we take away from that in our modern time from this little bit of text is that none of us are worthy of Jesus to
Right.
say, for Jesus to save us.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy has never had an interaction with Jesus before, and he's already recognizing the fact that he is not worthy for
Yeah.
Jesus to perform this miracle for him. But
Well,
then,
even to have him under his own
we're on the
roof.
topic of faith. Exactly. So he goes and points out the fact that, well, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So he doesn't even want him. I'm not worthy to have you even in my own house, but I have faith in you enough so that you can heal him just by speaking. He is recognizing the fact that Jesus is creator, that he has control over the whole universe, that even his words
Uh-huh.
can heal from afar.
Yeah.
And so then Marshall, he goes into saying that he's going to kind of give Jesus an analogy as far as like, I also am a man subject to authority with soldiers under me. So he's pointing out the fact that he can tell his soldiers to do to do something, and they will do it at his command. And
Mm-hmm.
and even his slave to do this, and he does it. So he's making a point that he's just driving home the fact that Jesus can make that command without even being anywhere near it, anywhere near
Yeah.
the slave or the sick person.
If y'all watch, just a little side note, if y'all watch the Chosen series that's going on right now, I want to say it's in season 2, there's an episode where Jesus and some of his disciples are staying at a house and they're laying in bed, and Jesus does something for somebody, and I can't remember all the details or who it was, but he does something for somebody, and he's not even with that person. He's in a completely different house, laying in a bed, and does something for an individual, not even being present. So
Mm-hmm.
Jesus can do anything, anywhere, anytime. He doesn't have to be right here with you, right? I mean, he's always with us, but he doesn't have to be right there with you. He could be anywhere. Hence, he's omnipresent, right? So,
Yep. And so, of course, Jesus knows everything. He knows everything that's going to happen before it happens. He knows, and yet this man's faith still amazed him enough that he turns around to the people that are following him. And he's like, "Hey, not even in all of Israel have I seen faith as much as this guy."
mm-hmm.
And he didn't even have to. He was just because I liked how it says in verse 9 there. Now, when Jesus heard this, he was amazed at him.
Mm-hmm.
And even just saying that, like, he didn't even say, "This is how great Jesus is." He didn't even say, "Be healed" or "Go home, he's healed" or anything. All he did was recognize the faith of this centurion,
Mm-hmm.
and thought it. He didn't even
Yeah.
have to. He thought for this guy to be healed.
Yeah,
That's some true power.
Yeah, it was just knowing, Jesus knowing the fact that centurion, that Roman, had the faith in Jesus. That's all it took. It was Jesus saying, "I see your faith," and he healed him just because of the faith that he saw in him.
Mm-hmm.
Or heard.
And we've seen this already happening, but what another cool part of the story is the fact that now even these Gentiles are they're already starting to be grafted in.
Yeah.
So verse 10 goes on to say, when the messengers who had been sent returned to the house, they found the slave in good health. Dude was up walking around.
Yeah, he's ready to go.
Okay, so
I like this next
now
one.
I know it's a good one, and I'm trying to figure. I was trying to think if this the first time. This is the first time, of course, within our story or within what we're following in Luke that he's going to raise somebody from the dead. Is
Yeah,
that correct? Or did we
I
already
think so.
cover? Yeah.
I don't remember him doing something up to this point in the book of Luke.
So what we're going to see is now forgive me if I mispronounce the name of the city, but it was near Nazareth, and it was Nyan or Nan. Um, it was a city, and so they're walking into the city, and as they approached the city gate, there was a guy being carried out. He was dead, and completely dead. They were carrying him out in like an open topped coffin. Uh, I think we can see it in some translations as like a beer, beir, a bear. Anyway, everything that I looked at is more like an open topped casket, is what it was like.
I was wondering
And
what
the
that was
reason
when I
that
read it.
this is significant, yeah, and the reason that this is significant is because uh, we're looking at this the only son of a widow, so she's already gone through the loss of her husband, and we already know after from previous podcasts and everything that widows were they eventually did get shunned. If they didn't have anybody to take care of them, they were shunned from society for whatever
Hmm.
reason. I don't know why, but um, so that's why this is kind of a significant part in this story, because of course we're going to look in as you get to reading the Bible and see that Jesus is teaching people that is part of being a Christian or being a believer in Jesus and following Jesus's ways is to uh, take care of widows and orphans.
Yep. I love this next part. It's about to come up when the Lord sees her. Uh,
Which one? Go ahead, Marshall. Talk about it.
yeah. So in verse 13, it says, "When the Lord saw her, his heart went out to her, and he said, 'Don't cry.'" That right there. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, could you imagine? You're essentially in a funeral procession, carrying your loved one, your last remaining loved one, from the sounds of it, to go bury him.
On the brink of
And
getting shunned from society.
yes, and then Jesus passes by you, and Saul sees your heart and says, "Don't cry." Like, it's going to be okay. I mean, mic drop. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and so here's the other part that the reason that it's in there is because it holds some sort of significance, and like what Jesus did with the leper and touching the leper. Of course, Jesus is not concerned. He's come to fulfill the law. He's not concerned about being unclean. But the reason that it's in here, he came up and touched the bear on which the body rested, the coffin, which would have made him in any other time, any other person would have walked up and touched it, they would have been considered unclean and would have had to follow whatever that ritual was for cleansing. Um, Jesus ain't concerned about that. Um, he touched this casket and said, "Young man, arise from death." Is what mine kind
Yeah,
of adds
and
is arise. Um, yeah, go ahead.
to go back to your point, when Jesus touched the bear, like you said, they were carrying him, and the bearers, the gentlemen who were carrying the casket, they stood still. Because, like you said, he
Mm-hmm.
would, usually you'd be considered unclean. So they were probably looking at him like, "What are you doing? Like that? Don't do that. Now you're unclean. That's gross. This is a dead person, right?" But Jesus is like,
Yeah.
"Nah, I'm not worried about
Yep.
that."
I'm bigger than that, And it was like it was kind of like that scene, if you picture this, if you will, that like shock and awe, like, no, he didn't just touch that, did he?
Oh yeah, Yeah.
Then the next surprise happens, and this guy just sits up in the casket. Could you imagine all those people's faces when this dude sits up in the casket? They got him obviously probably wrapped up, like they didn't embalm back then, so
No.
so but they obviously probably covered him with something, and all of a sudden he just gets up and he starts speaking.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. You're carrying your loved
Well,
one who's passed away, and then all of a sudden this guy just pops up out of the casket, fully alive. I'm sorry, but if that were me, I'm dropping the casket and I'm running, and I'm freaking out.
right, and so and it goes on in verse 16 here to say that fear and profound awe gripped all of them. And of course, what do you do when that happens? You can't help but glorify. You can't help but praise Jesus for doing what he did. And then again, like we've seen so far in the story, he's always telling people just to don't. It's not his time. It's not. It would have been. He would have urged people to try and keep this to themselves. But when something like that happens, you can't contain that. Oh, I mean,
No,
I'm
absolutely
not
not.
limiting God's power as far as like that goes, but people are going to want to talk about it because it's inspiring.
And they did. They went and spread the news all throughout the surrounding country.
Yeah. Yep. So now we're going back to, we're going to see John the Baptist in prison as we get further into chapter 7 here. Now, I want to go back and kind of recap what John is. John the Baptist was in the spirit of Elijah. He wasn't Elijah reincarnate. He was it was in the spirit of Elijah. So of course he was still a sinful, having moment of doubt human being. And from what we've seen so far early on in the chapter, that he preached a message of redemption. They both preached the same message, Jesus and John the Baptist. And then moving forward in this chapter, we're going to see just that little bit of doubt in John, because John, being the human and a Jew, they're still expecting this worldly conqueror.
Yeah.
Because he's sitting in prison. He's sitting in prison. He's alone. And why doesn't Jesus come save me if he's the true Messiah? And this is all the thoughts going through his head as he sits in prison.
Mm-hmm.
So John sends some of his disciples to bring word. So it says in verse 19, John called two of his disciples, sent them to the Lord, and they said, they were asking, they said, hey, John sent us. He wants to know, are you the expected one? Are you the Messiah, or should we look for somebody else? Am I really supposed to be in prison? I should be out here on the front lines with you, Jesus. But of course, we know Jesus had other plans. It was John the Baptist did his job. He paved the way for Jesus.
Yeah.
And so what does Jesus do in response to that question? Well, he heals all these different people, cleansing of the spirits, the blind, the lame, sicknesses. And then he said after he's done doing that, he says, go tell John what you just saw. And the poor have good news preached to them. Blessed is he who does not take offense at me. When John's messengers left, Jesus began speaking to the crowds about John. And so I really don't. Do you have anything to add onto that part there, Marshall?
Not really. It's pretty cut and dry. I mean, there's not a whole lot to really dig into that.
Okay, so he reminds them that. So starting in verse 24 there, he said, when John's messengers left, Jesus began speaking to the crowds about John. What did you go out to the wilderness to see? A reed shaken by the wind? What did you go out to see? But what did you go out to see? A man dressed in soft clothing? entirely unsuited for the harsh wilderness. Those who wear splendid clothing and live in luxury are in royal places. But what did you actually go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I say to you. So he is concreting the fact that he's still giving um, John the accreditation that he deserves. I mean, he did pave the way, and we're going to see Jesus reference back in verse 27 the a prophecy of what John's job was. So, and then in verse 28, he says, I tell you, among those born of women, there is no one greater than John. Yet he who is least in the kingdom of God is greater than he.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah. So he's pretty much saying that John's just a man, and he's trying to he's trying to send these messengers back. Well, the messengers had left, but what he did, the idea of what that was is to instill the faith in John, what his mission was on this earth.
Yeah.
I was just looking up some of the stuff that I was kind of reading on before, as I was kind of preparing for this on line here. Okay, so what it says here under like some of the enduringtheword.com stuff, it says, are you the coming one, or do we look for another? It says other passages indicate before this, John clearly recognized Jesus as the Messiah. His doubt might be explained because perhaps he himself had misunderstood the ministry of the Messiah. Perhaps John thought that if Jesus were really the Messiah, he would perform works connected with a political deliverance of Israel, or at least the deliverance of John, who was in prison. So that's basically what I had said earlier.
It's interesting that John was kind of doubting things because, as we all know, he was preparing the way for Jesus, baptizing people, and wasn't he related to Jesus in some way as well through the lineage?
Yeah, cousin, I think. Yeah,
that's what I thought. Yeah, so it's interesting. See, you think about it. Even John the Baptist, like he says, no one's greater than he. It's even John had a time of doubt with Jesus and about Jesus. So, everybody's going to go through at some point in time.
Right. Yeah, and that's what the idea of going through this chapter is, to look at how do we apply this to our lives nowadays. And what we can see here is that we are all going to have that time where we don't necessarily put our full faith and trust excuse me, in Jesus and what his will is for our life.
Well, and even you can see that this was a testing of John's faith. I believe Jesus used this situation when he was in prison or in jail to test his faith, and clearly it did. It shook John a little bit, enough to question things.
That is one thing I do remember. Yeah, I've got. Hey, why don't you come over here real quick and say that? How should I have put that differently? Ashley is going to make an appearance on the podcast here, so hold on just a second. How should we have? How should I rephrase that a little better?
I don't know that I would have said it that way. I mean, because it's not that we don't follow the Lord; it's just that we all have times where we fall victim to temptation, or we have times where we fall victim to weak moments.
Yeah, that's a valid point. I like that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
See, we just need some of that Ashley wisdom on the podcast.
Yeah, right.
Oh goodness.
But that does kind of bring me to kind of a passage in let's see here, what we were looking at in James, and maybe I can find that a little quicker this turn around than me trying to look it up. Tempted. Let's see. All right. Do not be misled. Every good thing is given. I'm looking for the
13.
Was it 13? No. I was looking for the part in James where it says, our trials help increase our faith.
Mm.
Trials are a good thing, and it's be assured. Here it's James chapter 1 verse 3. Be assured that testing of your faith through experience produces endurance, leading to spiritual maturity and inner peace. Let that endurance have its perfect result and do a through work so that you may be perfect and completely developed in your faith, lacking in nothing.
Yep.
So that's something that we
100%
could
true.
take away from what John was experiencing. It's even in your trials.
Yeah, and I
that
think that
strengthen you.
I think anybody who is a Christian or has been a Christian for a good period of time can attest to that. That when you go through a trial like that, if you're looking at it from the right way and from your heart, and you're listening to Jesus in that moment during that trial, it's going to do nothing but strengthen you and make you a better person and bring you closer to God. I mean, I can attest to that myself when I was going through my divorce. That was probably the lowest point in my life at that point in my life. And I was closer to God then than I've ever been, even to this day. Because you're just so desperate and you're so curious and you have questions and you want to know everything and why God is allowing to do or allowing to happen what's going on. And so you're just searching and searching and searching.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to the end of this little passage and go on to onto the next example here. Jesus goes on to say, he's talking about them, talking about this generation of people that he's talking to, and he's like, you guys said that this guy had a demon. You say I'm drunk with wine. They're like children sitting in the marketplace, calling to one another. He's like, I can't. Nothing we do is going to make you guys happy.
Yeah. What is what is a dirge or a dirge or dire? Is it like a song?
A dirge?
it says that. It says we played the pipe for you. You did not dance. We sang a dirge and you did not cry. I'm assuming it's some sort of a song or
dirge.
Something like that.
It is. It's pertaining to must be like a morning song or a morning of some sort, because it says in a melody pertaining to it says, because it says pretending to be at a funeral, so probably some sort of mourning or something of the sort.
I see, Aaron. I think Ashley's probably going to end up taking your spot because she keeps on having the answers to all of our questions in the background.
I know. Yeah. Well, we were just talking today about a little side note here about another little something, a little spin-off of our normal podcast here, and we were going to start doing something together, marriage-wise, and
nice.
Do a marriage study and stuff together. So hopefully that's coming in the future. We'll see. As you all know, that we have plenty of interruptions when the kids are preoccupied, let alone if me and her were doing it. How many interruptions would we have for them coming in because they miss us? But that's a good thing,
That is a good thing. I think an hour-long podcast will probably take you guys a couple hours to get through because of the kids. But maybe you can make the podcast about family and marriage.
Well, it's going to be the idea of it is to do a spin-off of like it's like once a month to get together, talk about different things, as a couple. So we'll see.
Yeah, call it life's interruptions.
So here, right? Okay, so moving on. Let's see what you're gonna have to. This part you're gonna have to correct me, if I misspeak or if I because we're gonna see that one of the Pharisees asked Jesus to come to his house, and while they're sitting there, there's a woman. She's a sinful woman, I guess is all it says. There was a woman in the city who was known as a sinner.
Yeah,
Okay.
she was
I don't
living
know
a
what she
sinful
did.
life.
Yeah. But so she's going to come in. We're going to see her enter the scene with a really expensive bottle of perfume in an alabaster vial. And so we can take this a couple of ways. She's recognizing that Jesus has come as the Messiah to die for our sins. And what did they do when they during that time when somebody died? They would perfume the
Perfume.
body
Yeah.
of the dead.
Make it smell better.
Yeah. So yeah. So she's recognizing the fact that Jesus has come to die for our sins. And that's why we're going to see her break this bottle of perfume. And it's the most expensive thing she has. So it is technically her life savings, her giving up everything.
It's like her offering
to be, to come to Jesus and in full submission to Jesus. So
yeah, I
what
mean,
does she
she
do?
immediately.
And here's another thing that. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say she immediately. I mean, it says she stood behind him at his feet, weeping. I mean, she was immediately submissive to him, like you said.
All that we should. Okay, and have we talked about this before, or has that been one of the other Bible studies? Anyway, when people entered a house in those days, they would wash their feet, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And normally the person that would wash these feet, yes. And so Jesus's feet hadn't been, nobody washed his feet. And yet here she is. She takes down her hair, which was a big no-no at the time. And it's, what she was doing in this circumstance is not, it's, let me think of the word here, intimate. But it's not like what we would take as like a sexual intimacy. But that's what a woman would do. Like if she was around her husband, she would take down her hair to show comfortably. Yeah, that's just what she could do. But she is comfortable around Jesus. She's recognizing him as the Messiah, and she's taking down her hair in a symbol of love towards Jesus, but not the type of love that we would consider like not. In a sexual attraction type of love. You see what I'm saying, Marshall?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
But it's a full-on love, which is what she's symbolizing with taking her hair down. And she's going to kiss and wash his feet, which is what we should all do, because we should all we should all fall. And we all do eventually fall or will come the end of days. If you haven't already, we will all fall at Jesus's feet. That's a given.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It is going to happen. And I advise men, all you men out there, if you haven't already, go get yourself a nice little bowl of warm water and get a rag and go surprise your wife and wash her feet and see how that goes for you. I've done it before. And you talk about an intimate moment with your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That'll bring on the tears. There's a lot of meaning behind that.
There is. There's a lot more than just rubbing or washing of feet.
Mm-hmm. So she began to.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like it says, she stood behind him at his feet weeping. And then she began to wet his feet with her tears. And like Aaron was saying, because her hair was down, she wiped her. She wiped his feet with her hair and then kissed him and then poured the perfume on him.
Yep. That's what I'm glad you kind of came back to that, because I did kind of not go into it in great detail. It was an anointing of his, like what I was talking about. That's the word I should have thought of earlier, is she was anointing, like prepping in advance Jesus's body for his death, burial, and that's what the idea was behind that perfume. Yeah. And so this Pharisee, whose house they're in, he still doesn't see the significance of it, and he's like, man, if this guy would know what this woman has done, he wouldn't even have allowed her to touch him.
Yeah, just think about it. You're this Pharisee, and you're with a group of people, and you're just thinking to yourself, if this guy knew who she was, the sinful woman she was, he wouldn't allow her to touch him. And he's just thinking that to himself. He just probably just kind of mumbling to himself. Because Jesus hears him.
And then what does Jesus do? He's going to... Oh, yeah. Whether he's thinking it or voicing it, Jesus hears him. And what does he do? He answers him with a parable. And he says, hey, Simon, which is the Pharisee's name, I have something to say to you. He's like, say it. He's like, there's a moneylender that had 2 debtors. One owed him 500 denarii, the other 50. When they had no means of repaying the debts, he freely forgave them both. So which one of them will love him more? Which one of them, Marshall, would you think would love him more?
Well, as Simon's replied, you would suppose it was one who had a bigger debt. But that's not the case.
Yeah.
Well,
he did clarify that the one that forgave, the idea that he's driving home here is like she is, and this is I guess this is my interpretation of it, is that she has so much sin. So of course she's going to be, if he forgives her, which he is going to forgive her, that she'll be that much more thankful because she has that much sin. You know, she has 500 denarii of sin as opposed to, she'll be more thankful.
And that's, and my bad. Jesus says you have judged correctly. So he was correct. Simon was correct by saying what he said.
Okay, so check this out. Let's see, 44, verse 44 there. He turns to the woman. He said to Simon, then turning towards the woman, he said to Simon, do you see this woman? I came to your house, but you failed. This is what we were talking about earlier. But you failed to extend to me the usual courtesy shown to a guest. You gave me no water for my feet, but she has wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair, demonstrating her love. We just covered that.
Yeah.
You gave me no welcoming kiss. No, that was custom at the time, was to welcome with a kiss. But from the moment I came in, she has not ceased to kiss my feet. You didn't even anoint my head with ordinary oil, but she has anointed my feet with costly, rare perfume. Therefore I say to you, her sins, which are many, are forgiven, for she loved much. This is the faith that she had. She had no expectation coming into this that Jesus was going to bless her in this way, but yet she had the faith that Jesus could save her, that he could stop all of this sin that she was in.
Yeah.
And then here he is. Your sins are forgiven.
Yep. And then
Which,
at
of course,
the very
that upset
end,
some people.
It did. But at the very end, and man, I'm not going to, I'll read 49 and then 50 because this just gets me. So verse 49, he says, the other guests began to say among themselves, who is this who even forgives sins? So they're, like Aaron said, they are questioning Jesus and what he's doing. But the part that gets me at the very, very end of this is Jesus said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. I read that today when I was doing physical therapy. I laying into bed, putting heat on my back and stuff. And I was laying there for 10 minutes. And I was reading through this and I read that at the very end and my eyes started to tear up. I was just like, just picture it. Jesus, your faith is, and that's what we've all done, right? Our faith in Jesus, us accepting Jesus Christ as our personal Lord and Savior, has saved us. Jesus down on the cross is what saved us, but our faith in him, if we didn't accept him and what he's done for us, we wouldn't be saved, right? Like we wouldn't be Christians. We have to accept him. So it's that faith. And then he says, go in peace. I'm just like, it's another mic drop moment by Jesus.
Yeah. And what we can take from that is, he says go in peace, but where is our peace ultimately found? In Jesus. This Amplified version goes on. this Amplified version goes on to say, free from the distress experienced because of sin. So you're still going to sin. But if you put your faith and trust in Jesus, through that faith and trust, you have peace. And you can ultimately be free from the distress of sin.
And that is so true.
Because Jesus has fulfilled that. He has paid the price for that.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, I could testify myself that, I'm a Christian. I've been a Christian since I was 13 years old. Now, does that mean that I haven't sinned since I was 13 years old? Absolutely not. I have sinned so many times, more times than I can count on my fingers and my toes. But and it's not an excuse to sin, but I know that Jesus has forgiven me and he died on the cross for my sins. And that peace that I have from that, I know that, okay, he's forgiven me. Now let's work on this and not do that again. But I have that peace knowing that God loves me so much, he died on the cross for my sins, that I'm forgiven, I'm a Christian, I'm saved. And so I can go on my life working on myself, bettering myself, and still pursuing him, knowing that he's there for me.
Still having that confidence in Jesus. A confidence, that's the word that you have. Even though you are still in a sinful body, you have a confidence through Christ.
Absolutely.
All right, Marshall, that is chapter 7. We made it through it.
Made it through. Hey, it's been a while since we made it through a whole chapter.
I know. That was actually pretty good. I feel good about that.
Hey, I love it.
That's a good chapter.
It was good. I really liked that chapter.
So, all right, man. Well, I suppose we ought to get off here, go decide what's for dinner, and I want to thank everybody for listening. Of course, I told you earlier that I would give out, we're looking for constant sustainable sources of coffee and beard oil and beard treatment. And you can send any sponsorship donations. That's what I'm going to call them. Sponsorship donations to P.O. Box 92, Grangeville, Idaho, 83530. It's just that easy.
It's that easy, guys. Ship it to us. It's we will take care of you. I'll say we will push your product for a good while. We will show it off, and hey, we will enjoy it because, like Aaron and I were saying at the beginning of this, we are a couple bearded brothers. We love our beards, we love our coffee, and we love taking care of our bodies with our coffee and taking care of our beards with some of them beer products.
Mm-hmm. I do love coffee. You can imagine drinking a pot or better a day. Go through a lot of coffee.
Oh man, coffee is like a comfort food. It's a comfort drink.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Oh, and as always, if you guys have any questions, want us to cover something, want any prayer requests or anything, please reach out to us. mail@undauntedpursuit.com. That's always open. That's always available. It comes through on my phone. And anything you want to ask Marshall or whatever, he can see it. Or we actually have 2 emails. Marshall, I think you can see undauntedpursuit@gmail.com. So you can use either one of those. Or check us out. Check us out on the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Message us on either one of those. Get involved in our page. And most importantly, get on to Apple. Give us a good rating. Give us a good review. That helps boost our credibility, helps get it noticed better. And share this with somebody this week. Share this episode. Share this podcast with somebody. Get out there. Help spread the word about this. And Spotify, I think they only let you do ratings on there. Give us a good rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Marshall, am I missing anything, bud?
YouTube, man. Go on to YouTube. We only have audio on YouTube right now, but in the not so far future, we will have video. Aaron and I are working on that. We're working towards that, trying to learn and get that figured out and put together. But in the time being, if you still go like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, that helps us out tremendously too. And it's not about just getting followers and all that good stuff, but it's just getting the word out. That's the most important about all this, is getting the word out. That's why we want sponsors. That's why we want you guys to follow us, like us, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. It's about getting God's word out to the world. It's not about getting all this stuff so we can make money or
yes,
get cool products or anything like that. That's great. And it's a nice little pep, but getting the word out is what this is all about. So please do all these things for us. We appreciate you guys more than you could possibly imagine.
Yeah. Like you said, Marshall, that your guys' rating and reviews, you guys are what power this podcast. You guys are the ultimate sponsors of this podcast. We couldn't do this without your ratings, your reviews. Apple and YouTube allow you to write a written review. We want to see that. We'll read it if we see any on there, and help us spread the word about this. Spread the word of God. Do something good for somebody this week. I do that and share the podcast with them. If this has touched your life, touch somebody else's.
Yeah,
pay it forward.
Keep on pushing along. Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's get out of here, Marshall. What do you say?
I say that's a great idea. That's all I got.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
See you later.
Life is not about what we can own, and it goes to show, 'cause I've been working for so long, to what end I do not know. Can you see? Are you free? Are you tired? Pushing back the sleep, can you see? Are you free? Are you tired? Fighting back the dreams, are you free? Stuck in this house, we lock the door ourselves and can't get out. But if we could flee, you and me, we could sail the open seas, cheating death and living free. Can you see? Are you free? Are you tired? Pushing back the sleep, can you see? Are you free? Are you tired? Fighting back the dreams, are you free? We found a home, we finally found a place where we belong, 'cause we were made to roam. Turns out home is where the heart is, when it's small enough to tow. Can you see? Are you free? Are you tired? Pushing back to sleep, can you see? Are you free? Are you tired? Fighting back the dreams, are you free? Nobody wants a king these days. I didn't need a king, I'd say. I didn't see my chains, didn't know I was enslaved. Everybody serving something all the same. Can you see? Are you free? Are you tired? Pushing back to sleep, can you see? Are you free? Are you tired? Fighting back the dreams, are you free?